Why are we so different from the chimpanzees? We get the genetics keeping on telling us how extremely closely we are, hardly any genes of difference, very, very closely related. And yet, when you look at the phenotypes, there's a chimp, there's a man. It's astoundingly different, no resemblance at all. I'm not talking about airy-fairy stuff about culture or psychology or behavior. I'm talking about ground-based, nitty-gritty, measurable physical differences. That one is hairy and walking on 4 legs. That one is a naked biped. Why? I mean, if we change so much, something must have happened. What happened? Now, 50 years ago, that was a laughably simple question. Everybody knew the answer. They knew what happened. The ancestors of the apes stayed in the trees. Our ancestors went out onto the plain. That explained everything. We had to get up on our legs to peer over the tall grass or to chase after animals or to free our hands for weapons. And we had got so overheated in the chase that we had to take off that fur coat and throw it away. But then, in the 90s, something began to unravel. When Alistair Hardy, a marine biologist, said, I think what happened, perhaps our ancestors had a more aquatic existence for some of the time. He kept it to himself for 30 years, but then the press got over and all hell broke loose. All his colleagues said, this is outrageous, you've exposed us to public ridicule. You must never do that again. And at that time, it became set in stone. The aquatic theory should be dumped with the UFOs and the Yetis as part of the lunatic fringe of science. Well, I don't think that. I think that Hardy had a lot going for him. I'd like to talk about just a handful of what have been called the hallmarks of mankind, the things that make us different from everybody else and all our relatives. Let's look at the naked skin. It's obvious that most of the things we think about that have lost their body hair, mammals without body hair, are aquatic ones, like the dugong, the walrus, the dolphin, the hippopotamus, the manatee, and a couple of wallowers in mud like the babirusa. And you're tempted to think, well, perhaps, could that be why we are naked? I suggested that people said, no, no, no. Look, I mean, look over about the elephant. You've forgotten all about the elephant, haven't you? So back in 1982, I said, well, perhaps the elephant had an aquatic ancestor. Peals of merry laughter. That's crazy woman. She's off again. She'll say anything, would she? But by now, everybody agrees that the elephant had an aquatic ancestor. They've come round to agree that all those naked pachyderms had aquatic ancestors. So this is a close connection between nakedness and water. As an absolute connection, it only works one way. You can't say all aquatic animals are naked because look at the sea otter. But you can say that every animal that has become naked has been conditioned by water in its own lifetime or the lifetime of its ancestors. I think this is significant. Then take bipedality. Here you can't find anybody to compare it with because we're the only animal that walks upright on 2 legs. But you can say this. All the apes and all the monkeys are capable of walking on 2 legs if they want to for a short time. There's only one circumstance in which they always, all of them, walk on 2 legs, and that is when they're wading through water. Do you think that's significant? David Attenborough thinks it's significant as the possible beginning of our bipedalism. Look at the fat layer. We have got under our skin a layer of fat all over. Nothing in the least like that in any other primate. Why should it be there? Well, they do know that if you look at other aquatic mammals, the fat that's in normal land animals is deposited inside the body wall, around the kidneys and the intestines and so on, has started to migrate to the outside and spread out in a layer inside the skin. In the whale, it's complete. No fat inside at all in blubber outside. We cannot avoid the suspicion that in our case it started to happen. We have got skin lined with this layer. It's the only possible explanation of why humans if they're very unlucky, can become grossly obese in a way that would be totally impossible for any other primate, physically impossible. Something very odd about our fat, never explained. The question of why we can speak. We can speak, and the gorilla can't speak. Why? Nothing to do with his teeth or his tongue or his lungs or anything like that. Purely to do with its conscious control of its breath. You can't even train a gorilla to say ah on request. The only creatures that have got conscious control of their breath are the diving animals and the diving birds. It was an absolute precondition for our being able to speak. And then again, there's the fact that we are streamlined. Try to imagine a diver diving into water, hardly makes a splash. Try to imagine a gorilla performing the same maneuver. And you can see that compared with gorilla, we are halfway to being shaped like a fish. I'm trying to suggest that for 40-odd years, this aquatic idea has been miscategorized as lunatic fringe, and it is not lunatic fringe. Thank you very much.
Existen registros en forma de grabaciones apresuradas que muestran extrañas criaturas en medio del océano. Los avistamientos más recientes pertenecen a pescadores.